Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here and they have been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969. And now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Page, Shane Hurd, and Tara Diulis. Exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday night, and you're listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, that show that says discovery starts with curiosity, and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by KGRADB.com. I hope you go to their website and check out all their great shows and content. As always, we're endorsed by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? And I think our guest tonight has some really strong answers about that question. We have Ismael Perez with us tonight, and we are so lucky to have him. His book has just been exploding worldwide, and I am so anxious to get to talk with him here in a few minutes. First, I'd like to bring in my awesome, wonderful co-host. We have Tara Diulis. You can also see Tara right here on Sky Tour Live with Mark D'Antonio. How you doing, Tara? Did you have a good Labor Day weekend? Did you do anything fun?
Yes, just kind of hung out by a pool at one point in time and, tried to get out of this heat. But it's just always fun to have a holiday. So
what's the temperatures in Arizona? I'm always fascinated by that.
I think it's around 107-ish today. So it's a little humid, but it's nice. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Good thing you have that swimming pool. All right. And also from Arizona, the Arizona State Director, Phoenix, Shane Hurd. Welcome, Shane. Hey. What did you do this Labor Day weekend?
Hey, guys. Great.
Hey, Shane. How was your Labor Day weekend? You disappeared on us.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, there he is. Wait. Nope.
There he is.
So did you have a good Labor Day weekend, Shane?
Yeah, sure did. We went and saw the movie Oppenheimer.
Oh, what did you think of that?
That was good.
Was it good? I heard it was long. It's like 3 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's 3 hours, and it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but it was good. It was very much about the morality of it and the struggle everyone had versus It wasn't like heavy on the technical and, it was more a story about the people involved, but it was very, very interesting. I think it's important for, recent generations of people who weren't alive back then to kind of understand, what that was about and how, impactful it is on our society. So it was good.
Right. Cool.
For sure. Well, I wanted to, the UFO community lost another gem of a soul, Calvin Parker. So I wanted to, rest in peace, Calvin. A lot of Facebook posts saying Calvin's gone fishing. He loved to fish. And I found a good little 3-minute video that kind of explains Calvin Parker's famous sighting there. So if we can run that, Tara, in honor of Calvin, that would be awesome.
Almost since the beginning of time, man has wondered what secrets lie beyond the stars. One Gaucher man believes we are not alone.
Has to be a world out there somewhere. I don't know who it is. It has to be a world out there somewhere that they come from.
Regardless of where they come from, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker say they met them here on the Pascagoula River.
We were sitting there fishing, and I heard some type of hissing sound. And when I looked around, it was something that had come down behind Calvin and me, some kind of big craft. A door just appeared there like a sliding door. And 2 of them took hold of me by the shoulders, and one took hold of Calvin, and I saw Calvin go limp.
Once inside the craft, Hickson remembers being examined by an oblong-shaped instrument that hovered around him. He was completely paralyzed. Only his eyes could move. Hickson doesn't know how long he was there, but the unknown creatures released him sometime later, physically unharmed.
They carried me back out there and put me on the ground about where they'd picked me up from. And I heard a zipping sound again, and I looked around, and that craft was gone, just like that.
Later that same evening, both Hickson and Parker told their unbelievable story to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department.
Didn't know it at that time, but they had a tape playing there. And after they brought us out of that room and listened to that tape, then they decided something had happened to us.
Until now, that tape has never been aired on television. The tape shows just how scared the two men were just hours after being allegedly abducted.
I like had a heart attack tonight. I ain't I come one down each and that scared me to death too, so I'm just damn near crying right now and I can't help myself. I know, but I'm telling you, man, I couldn't take much more of that. I tell you, I gotta get home, get to bed or get some nerve pills or something, see the doctor or something. I can't stand it. I'm about to go all crazy.
Listen to Charles's original description of the craft's lighting compared to his description 27 years later.
And a blue light, you look in the sky, see a blue light, you know, it calls your attention to it. You couldn't tell, so it was just circling.
It was either flashing or pulsating, I don't know which one, but it was bluish.
Charles's son Eddie admits at first he couldn't believe his father's story either. Eddie says he became a believer after hearing his father tell the exact same story time and time again.
Daddy's taken numerous polygraphs, been under hypnosis. And I understand it's almost impossible to lie under hypnosis, and it's never changed.
Since the alien contact, Hickson has published a book at his own expense and still lives modestly in Goche. Calvin Parker hasn't spoken publicly about the event in years. Hickson says he understands why people have trouble believing his story, but he firmly believes the truth about alien existence will be revealed one day in the near future.
Wow.
What a case, a historic case that has stood the test of time. These guys were very credible witnesses. Stories never changed. So sad loss for the community.
Yeah. And he kind of paved the way for a lot of other witnesses to come forward as well. So
Sure.
really great.
Yeah.
So on that note, we're going to change the subject here to today's meme. So I have a vintage meme here today, and it shows two aliens collecting specimens from Earth. So you can see the two bicycles on the ground and two kids in a jar, looks like a little mason jar. And then one alien is saying to the other, now this time, Gorak, punch some holes in the lid.
Oh, no.
Have you ever done that, like with grasshoppers or something?
Yeah, when you're a kid.
You forgot the air or the water.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Funny.
It is great. So I just want to encourage everybody to visit the MUFON website. It's MUFON.com, because it's loaded with tons of information, such as how to join and how to become a member and all sorts of good stuff. You can review the last 20 submitted UFO reports and read about the latest research. And or you can even watch or listen MUFON TV or listen to What's Up. But if you go there, go to the store that's kind of up there in the left-hand corner, upper left-hand, and visit their merchandise. And you will find all sorts of fun stuff for your gifts, for yourself, or someone else. You know, the holidays are coming up. I shop for yourself first and others. Shop for others first. So it features various gifts. You know, like all sorts of just fun things. And then you have apparel, shirts and hats, and there's books and publications that are really interesting. There's some Leo Sprinkle newsletters,
Really?
Springfield newsletters, pardon me. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And then there are the field investigator training. They have a new section that is specialty items, which is really kind of fun because they have fun stuff like this Roswell Garage sweatshirt. And they have the fun Cats in Space t-shirt.
Got that one for my daughter. I got that for my daughter.
I love it. It's fun. All of us cat lovers love that one. They also have the Not Ours. That's the Tic Tac t-shirt that shows the images of those famous Tic Tacs. And there's a cool MUFON TV shirt that has this neat like half alien face. It's kind of spooky, but really cool. But all of that can be found on MUFON's website, MUFON.com. So I encourage everybody to go there and check it out. And lastly, remember to fuel up. And no matter what the time of year it is, use wake in the morning, play in the day, and rest for the night to hydrate your cells and help boost your immune system. These 3 flavors all taste really good. And so fuel up for life, stay happy and healthy, and go to fuelup.gg/MUFON for all sorts of special offers. So,
Fuel up.
yep.
Fuel up.
Fuel up. What's up? What's up,
Yeah.
Fuel up? Well, I want to know, what's up, Shane? What have you heard lately?
Hey, have you guys heard? Arrow is making a little more progress, in the last few weeks or so. And they actually got their website going. And a lot of people were anxious and looking for that. And yeah, there's the logo somewhere there. And it is called the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. And it oversees the Pentagon's investigations into unidentified anomalous phenomena. I think we're all familiar with that. And that website includes, general information about Arrow, its mission, its activities related to the collection of information about UAP. And of course, when you look at the logo, we always look for interesting clues. And I know we've had John Ramirez as a speaker who is retired from the CIA, and he did a presentation about all the mission patches that the military has and NASA has, and the meaning behind them. And it'll blow your mind. It's freaky. There is stuff to it. But at any rate, with Arrow, we see there the Latin logo and statement around there, which translates into, at the top there, the universe is changing, and then on the bottom, our life is what our thoughts make it. So I think that's pretty interesting.
That's profound.
Yeah. And
is that Orion
CIA,
also?
For a fact from John Ramirez's statements, are extremely interested in consciousness. And I'm shocked to see it on here, but cool, right?
Right.
And then
is that the constellation Orion?
In the word Arrow. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of what they're looking into are silver orbs, right? Lights, balls of light, white or silver orbs. And I think that's kind of interesting that they put that, if that's what it means, in the O there of Arrow. So kind of cool. But anyways, the director of Arrow, his name is Sean Kirkpatrick, and he made some statements lately, some controversial, some pretty straightforward. But what he said here is, our team of experts is leading the U.S. government's efforts to address unidentified anomalous phenomena using rigorous scientific framework and a data-driven approach. And the idea is to improve data collection, standardize reporting requirements, and mitigate the potential threats to safety and security posed by UAP. And all those things sound pretty good to us as UFO investigators in MUFON. Those are the principles that we apply in our investigations. And on the website, they talk about their mission and their vision, and those are all pretty typical things with any kind of organization, especially a government organization. But I thought it was interesting that the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, is kind of taking a more active role in this process over the last few weeks or months, at least since the hearings on July 26, because all of the sort of deadlines that they've missed, right? Gone a little bit late. And I get that. I work in a big government organization, and, it's hard to keep those schedules. When the boss comes in and kind of starts poking around, that it's time to make sure these deadlines are met. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing there. But one of the things that she emphasizes, and I think is good, so the mission isn't lost, is that, whatever the UAPs are, they want to know, and as well as why and how they exhibit behaviors that are not really understood by our sensors or observers and all of that, to make sure it isn't a threat, right? And I've always, I held the view that at a minimum, this is a flight safety threat, right? Not just for the military, but for commercial as well. And it seems like a no-brainer that they need to be looking at that. So we're looking at some progress. The website isn't fully functional. Part of the process will be that members of the government and military and those organizations can report information through the website. And that's probably soon to come in the next few weeks. And then ultimately, they're talking about the general public being able to submit reports, which I think is kind of interesting. And again, being a MUFON member and looking at our database and the number of cases that we get, that, I hope they're prepared for the volume of that they're going to get. Right? And people, are going to, take them up on their word and do it. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting over the next few months to see what that is. So all in all, I follow it, bro. I appreciate that it exists. There are definitely some things that I'm afraid of it being another blue book, and as we all are, right? 75 years of history of government denial and so forth. But this is absolutely a step in the right direction, and the right kind of pressures being applied by the public, by scientists, and the military members themselves. So all in all, I think it's on a good trajectory, although I have to have that feeling. I don't want the rug yanked out from under me, which I feel like could happen at any time. I'm going to be positive and congratulate them for doing at least, this much. It's more than we've had, right? So that's it. That's all I have today on Arrow.
So Shane, I was poking around the Arrow website today, and I appreciate how visual their charts are. I think Tara, here we go. So they have trends, they have pie charts and graphs and maps and tables, and I'm all about that. I'm a very visual person. So, and this is just a little glimpse of what's on there, and they really break it down. So I'm loving that. I really like that, and I'm hoping maybe perhaps MUFON can follow suit with that and take some of their database and make it visual and graphic like that. So you can look at some of these statistics at a glance on a pie chart instead of having to dig through, tens of thousands of reports. But no, I appreciate how visual that is.
Totally agree. Visuals are so helpful.
Right. No, that's awesome, Shane.
Yeah.
Thank you for that insight, and thank you for sharing that. The website's back up. So
and hopefully, MUFON can adopt that.
Right. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'm just wondering, they're getting all these cases, but they're not necessarily going to investigate all of them, right? I mean, they're going to be a depository of them, but not necessarily an investigation like MUFON does. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I would think especially on the civilian side.
Yeah. So speaking of MUFON, we have Case of the Week. This is a short one this week, short little video. So let's just jump into that. It is case 129867. It's a Category 2 case. It occurred March 17th, 2023 at 1 a.m. The witness was interviewed by phone for about 20 minutes. The witness and his wife were totally shocked by seeing the object. He seems very sincere and credible. And so basically, the witness and his wife saw a low-altitude object hovering over their home in the early morning hours of March 17th, like I said, in Southampton, Pennsylvania. The object appeared to be solid with 2 taillights. The taillights flashed 3 times. After the third flash, the object flew away at an incredible speed. Wow. The FI ruled out ball lightning. The conditions that morning were not favorable for lightning of any kind. And they said, we did not find any evidence of tampering or hoax of the video. The witness stated that the object appeared to be a single solid object with 2 flashing taillights. The case will be closed as an unknown UAV. And it's just a short little video, but Tara, if you can run that video, that'd be great. Do you want to see that again? Let's see that again.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's
That
see
was
that one
cool.
again. Guys,
Wow, that was intriguing to say the least. It was
That's
cool.
crazy. That's like number one, engage.
Vroom.
Yeah, if we could prove that to be authentic, which, according to our field investigator, was a credible witness, didn't look like
Wow.
any tampering of that video. And so there you have it, case of
That's
the
cool.
week. Yeah, and Tara, do you have a Mars case to share?
Oh my gosh, I do. We have such cool cases in the archives, all of MUFON's archives. And so the Mars archives of historic cases contain files dating from 2000 and prior. And most of these were investigated without the use of a computer, internet, or cell phone. And it's just incredible the amount of work that goes into investigating a case and then hand typing the details in the final report for submission. And not to mention, but I will, the witnesses that had the means and ability to come forward back then. So for instance, today's case comes to us from Aurora, Maine, and it was December 14th, 1978. And this witness saw something incredible and was so affected by it, he had to tell someone. And here's an example of what he went through just to make the report. He first told his wife, who urged him to call the police. The police referred him to the Charleston Air Force Base. The Air Force Base said they did not investigate UFOs anymore. And the sergeant referred him to the telephone operator. The telephone operator was no help, and in desperation, the witness called the Bangor Daily News. The person on duty told him to call the Bangor International Airport. The airport referred him to a random gentleman who happened to personally know the field investigator. So we sure hope it's easier to report sightings now. And it's amazing that this story even got documented. He just was persistent in trying to talk about it. So the witness was a veteran, a U.S. Marine in his early 30s, and he explained that during the particular day, he was developing these really uncomfortable feelings, although everything was in his routine was normal. But that evening, his daughter was sleeping, and he was extremely restless and decided to go out for a drive at about 1 a.m. There's that 1 o'clock hour again. So this is something that he had never done before, and he had never left his young daughter alone. And so he was riding along for about 35 minutes when he said all of a sudden his car motor stopped, and he coasted along the road to a stop. So he turned off his radio, and with his lights still on, he tried to start his vehicle, but he was unsuccessful. And it was then that he heard this very loud crackling noise. It was almost a tapping sound that he was unable to describe, but he compared it to like Spanish castanetas. Click, 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 a steady clicking. So, yep, that's right. So he was going like this, turned his head right and towards the noise, and he saw this UFO hovering in a nearby field. And he said it was close enough he could throw a rock at it and hit it.
Wow.
Yeah, so he described it as an elongated rectangle with the square front facing him. So he could see the entire object. He could not see the entire object, but indicated it was large, easily could fit 40 cars in it. He described the object as possibly having some large pipes or tubes on the side. And this is where he saw it. He saw, let me start. He saw two large circles at the bottom. And while he was looking at the front-facing square had some very pale green lights, and then it changed to a reddish pink and started going back and forth. And so as he was looking at these circles on the bottom, he noticed the lights were changing colors and blinking faster and faster. And then it reminds me of Katie's story. He heard a voice say, "Do not be afraid. We will not harm you." And then the lights blinked faster and faster. And he then heard a voice say, "Do not be afraid. We will not harm you. We are from the 17th star." And then as quickly as that happened, he said the lights slowed down and he heard, "We will return." So the object then seemed to rise at an angle, and that crackling noise came back, and it was gone. And he said he was able to start his engine again right at that time, but it seemed like it kind of jumped and kicked, like it was already started. And he returned home, and he said that event from the time the engine stopped to where he started, it was about 5 minutes. So here we see an example, a snapshot of the interview, and notice how the heading states the interview and interrogation. Just so you know, MUFON does not interrogate the witnesses.
No.
You know, it's kind of funny. But we do use the interviews and conversations with the reporting parties and our investigation. Some reporting parties don't want to talk to anyone. And so if that's the case, the investigators make their own investigation and use the witness story as it was submitted to complete their report. It's always helpful to be able to talk to someone. So this witness said he was scared, especially at the start and the end of the event. But he said while the lights were flashing, he felt like he was in a daze and he didn't move. And his body didn't have any feeling other than a needle-like tingling throughout. So similar to like when your foot falls asleep. So yes, exactly. So upon questioning, the witness couldn't be exactly sure of the time he left the house and the time he returned. However, he believed that he may have experienced missing time. And here's an excellent example of where a field investigator did the math and calculated the miles per hour with the time left to establish a missing time chart, a possible missing time. So the witness thought he had about 30 to 45 minutes of missing time. It could have been anywhere from 35 to 70 minutes based on this chart.
Wow.
It's very interesting that they do it. So this shows all field investigators must keep an activity log as well. And this case shows how the FI contacted the police, the witnesses, FAA, weather services. Here we have a really cool report that shows the chronology of events from when the car engine failed to when it operated normally again. And you see the crackling and the pulsating and the message and voice. And you also, he did a really thorough job. You also see a table on the 17th star, which is really kind of cool. You see a lot of star charts in these files in these historic cases. So interestingly, the investigation revealed a remarkable coincidence that there were numerous reports of a sonic boom in the area early that morning, around the same time of the event. And a nearby Air Force Base spokesman reported that about 3:44 a.m. that morning, the sound barrier was broken by one or more of a number of F-106 interceptor aircrafts that was participating in a defense exercise. You know, this exercise,
suspicious.
Yes, it was over the exact area where the UFO encounter was in progress at the same time. So were the UFOs there because of the training exercise, or were the jets there because of the UFO? Or did they just decide to meet and have, an early breakfast? I'm not sure.
That's it.
But events like these can be life-changing. And the witness in this case had many questions for the FI, like, what happens? What do I do with this? What am I'm looking for answers, and could this happen again? And he also said it's a hell of a thing to try to live with. It doesn't leave you. It's in your head every single day. So in conclusion, the FI ruled out man-made or natural phenomena and stated that it could only be classified as a hallucination, a hoax, or a bona fide UFO experience. So kind of interesting, but I believe it's a possible CE2 because of the effects that it had on his personal body in the cars and stuff. So Katie and Shane, what do you think of that?
I just have to say that's my favorite decade. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm all about the 70s. They're just awesome cases. I mean, we have the effects on the vehicles, and those are so common or perhaps in the early 70s, even late 60s, but really interesting case. And I do have to, my comment on that case is going through the Mars and being a part of that program. you're right. These investigators back in the day, pre-computers, I think the computers have ruined us a little bit where we're just like, blah, 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 blah. Because back then, boy, you did the work. You had these reports and you did the graphs and you did the math. And I love those historic cases for that reasons, because they were really thoroughly investigated. Like most of them were. Yeah.
They really drove me to be a better investigator.
Yeah.
You know, how thorough they were.
For sure.
Yeah.
What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I love it. That's a great case. And I think the professionalism of the investigator and even the astute nature of the witness was really solid there. And I always love that element of a car stalling, because it's not that cars don't stall, but when it stalls and the effects that it has on electronics, which continues to this day. So I always find that a fascinating and very credible piece of evidence.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's fun. Well, Katie, who do we have as our guest today?
I know. I'm so excited to bring him on, because I've never met him in person. I've seen his videos. I've heard so much about him. And like I said, he's got this this hot book out there right now. So let me read his bio and we'll get him on. So Ismael is an awakened starseed with memories of an ancient galactic war that took place in our galaxy and has been getting downloads about galactic and cosmic intel for many years now. He is the author of Our Cosmic Origin, a book that is now available on Amazon, which took him 10 years to write. I also believe it is now on audiobook as well. I'll ask him to be sure about that, but I think so.
Cool. In
this book, he proposes the idea that mankind's origin was cosmic and galactic, revealing a higher cosmology involving the existence of endless worlds and other universes. We're going to have to ask him about the multiverse and that. He believes himself to be one of many, many cosmic ambassadors that have incarnated at this time to help restore the Earth in its rightful place in the galactic and cosmic community. And we have all heard, that Galactic Federation. So please welcome to the show is Ismael Perez. Thank you, Ismael, for being here. It's an honor to have you on our show.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Did you have a wonderful Labor Day? Anything special?
Yes, I had a chance to just do me and become a hermit for a whole day. No social engagement. No nothing.
Love it.
Me, meditation, nature, and my quietness. That's it.
Oh, you know what? Nobody gets enough of that. I was just saying, I'm ready for a couple of days of that as well. So those are cherished moments for sure. I would really like, first of all, I don't know where you're located in the world. I think you're in the United States, but I don't know that for sure. And I just kind of wanted to go back to how all this unfolded for you. How old were you? What happened to kind of awaken you to this path that you're on now?
Well, it all started as a kid. Ever since I was 3 years old, 4 years old, I just remember being slightly, or may I say, just by far way different than my other siblings and my cousins and my whole family. I felt like I didn't belong here from day one, the reality was very blurry to me, like almost as if I was trying to get acclimated to this new density. I couldn't figure it out. I noticed that my body was a lot more denser. I kept observing my hands. I guess my aunts thought I was a weird kid, always asked weird questions. But the whole point is, I was telepathic with animals. I was able to communicate with my pets. I was able to communicate with the trees outside, the flowers, the plants. And I thought that it was a norm for everyone else. And no, lo and behold, everybody thought I was crazy. At least my siblings did.
How many siblings did you have, Ismael?
I had 2 younger siblings and cousins that were fairly like my age or just a year or two, slightly younger or older. And they all used to pick on me and call me a weirdo. And they say, oh, the weirdos, the weirdos talking to the trees again. But it's okay. There's a saying that says there's a black sheep in every family, right? But
right.
So it all started as a kid. I felt very connected to the unified field, as if my mind was part of this energy field that existed not only within me, but all around me. And it was connecting everything else. So it was very easy for me to feel the oneness of everything in existence, to the point where at one point I even started, you could say, I started exploring telekinesis. And it was actually working great. I was able, as a kid, as a 4 year old, I was able to shift my consciousness to the higher states, higher frequencies, gamma frequency brainwave, which is pretty much where all the magic stuff happens. So as a kid, I was able to naturally just shift my consciousness, which was different because nobody else could do that. But unfortunately, growing up in a very religious, conservative Catholic upbringing, it wasn't really a good thing when my grandmother walked in and she thought I was possessed by a demon and called the local priest. They came and they
no,
saying, "Get out of there, demon." But
that's what you do.
Yeah, that's what they do. They don't understand the phenomena. It's so I was forced to shut down. I had no other option. I was told I needed to not entertain this stuff because it was of the devil. So I shut down for many, many years. And it wasn't until maybe about the age of 15, 16, where I decided to rebel. I decided to rebel after so many years of suppressing my inner knowing of things, my inner abilities. And so I started researching things for myself. First and foremost, I disagreed with everything that I was taught in school. I think it was all hogwash. From elementary school to high school, I was always questioning everything. I spoke to my teachers, and even in college, my professors called me a pest. But the whole point is, I always disagreed with everything because I knew that there was a bigger truth, a suppressed truth to everything. And so I started researching a lot at an early age, getting into like philosophy, political science, metaphysics. I started reading my first book in esoteric knowledge at the age of 16 and a half, which was pretty intense for a 16-year-old to learn about mysticism at that age.
Cool.
For me, it was, I think, due to the fact that I've always been connected to this unified force, and I had this inner knowing when I was a kid, that book it did something to me. It kind of propelled me to want to learn more about this stuff. And then that's when I realized that I had a block, that I actually had blocked myself from fully understanding my multidimensionality, fully engaging in that. And so it wasn't until I started practicing Kriya Kundalini Yoga 4 years later, I got serious about my spirituality. And at the age of 20, that's when I had my first, I guess I would say, a big part of my consciousness started reintegrating back into my consciousness, my wake state. And that's when I knew I was different. And at that point, I started getting downstreams, like transmissions from my galactic family. Not knowing who they were at first, but I would always sense their presence. They would always kind of communicate to me through synchronicities and stuff. And numbers, of course, 1111, 444. These are all synchronicities that they're trying to transmit information. And so I used to, just get these downloads, and they would guide me to certain records, certain manuscripts, ancient manuscripts. Or sometimes I would end up in a place where some strange man would come in and say, "Oh, I need you to, these records were meant to get to you. Here you go." I'm like, "What? What is this?" Just read them. Okay, fine. So just stuff like that. Synchronicities. Like my whole life, I was led by something greater than myself. And I wrote my first book at the age of 25, revealing the secret history of the world, the battle between, the light and the dark, and how they operate through secret societies, but really how it involves magic, light, white magic, which is healing magic, and then dark, which is destructive magic, right? Used to manipulate and control. And how at the highest levels of the secret societies, you had actual wizards. You had real wizards. We watch movies like Lord of the Rings and seen Gandalf, fantasy, but these people have really existed throughout the centuries and millennia. If you want to trace back to Atlantis, that's where they originated. But the whole point is, even these wizards, I've come to discover that they themselves were also being used by otherworldly entities. And that's when I went deep into the rabbit hole and realized, wait a minute, this proxy warrior taking place between these two forces is just a small mimicking of a greater war that's been going on in our universe involving many galaxies, like a straight out Star Wars type of, scenario. And then that's when I started writing Our Cosmic Origin.
Wow.
Wow. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's how it all
Yeah. Shane, you're muted. There you go.
Ismael, yeah, it's slow. The system seems slow tonight. What I was just going to ask, just for my benefit, and then any of the listeners that don't know, how would you describe or explain what a star seed is?
Well, the best way to describe it is a celestial or a higher dimensional soul, a soul that is older than your average souls on Earth, a soul that actually chose to descend from higher levels of reality, where they had already completed the different levels of spiritual attainment and mastery and enlightenment, and they just decided to come back to help the planet evolve into, a higher frequency herself. So basically, our mission is manifold. First and foremost, we are ancient souls that are incarnated in human bodies with a particular resonance, where it actually raises the vibration of the entire planet, because energy is contagious, and because we come in with such a high frequency, it is believed that per 7,000 Earth Terrans, which are the young souls evolving from the bottom up, whereas we come from the top down. It's efficient enough to actually change the entire vibration of 7,000 people for one person. That's how powerful our frequency is when we, are in our, you could say, in our zone. So the second mission of a starseed is to also bring forth what is called the different divine templates back to the Earth, so that we could establish a continuous ascension for the Earth beyond just the fifth dimensional world, because we're going to be going beyond fifth dimension. We're going to be going back to where we came from, which is all the way from the top, the 12th dimension, which is the realms of eternity. So that's where we originated. So we also came with a template that allows the Earth to reascend itself back to her original state as the 12th dimensional Earth version, known as Aramatena. So Aramatena is Earth in the 12th dimension, you could say. Just how like we have different versions that exist in higher dimensions, so does the planet. So that's what starseeds are. We are old souls from the higher dimensions that volunteered to not only help the planet reach, the fifth dimension and above, but also really save the organic way of life, because we have the best amalgamation of all the divine genetics from across different universes into one spot. So our avatars are actually the ultimate, you could say, an all-natural organic weapon designed to, once, through the activation of dormant DNA, we're going to be so powerful enough that we could pretty much do anything in the future. So, there's multiple reasons why a starseed is down here, but the main reason is to save the organic way of life.
I have so many questions. I'm going to start with this one. You mentioned synchronicities and signs, and kind of a way of knowing you're listening to, people call them guides, or their spirit guides, or they're great teachers, or they're religious spiritual leaders, whatever you choose to believe or call them. You mentioned the numbers, the 1111. You mentioned 444. For me, it was 333. Do these numbers have different meanings? And if so, can you kind of touch on some of the more common numbers that people might see as they're awakening?
Well, definitely 1111. 1111 is an indicator of drastic change happening, like something huge shift coming. 444 is more of an indicator saying that your spirit team is always there on it, like just giving you that reassurance that they are watching over you. I'm not much of a numerologist, but I believe that each number, like 333, is also has its own significance. But I believe that each number that we see, like on a repetitive basis, is definitely a way in which these other dimensionals are communicating with us.
So pay attention, people, if you're waking up every night at a certain time, or seeing these on license plates all the time,
or your cell phone.
Places. Just random places, and it's beyond synchronicity sometimes. One other quick question. You mentioned the word avatar. And that makes me think of video games, and maybe that we're living in a matrix kind of. What are your views on that? What's your take on that?
Well, Okay, if you guys really want to, okay, we're going to go deep into the rabbit hole.
Let's go.
Elon Musk is right.
Dive.
Our simulation exists within a higher simulation, which is less denser, of course, within a simulation, within a simulation, within a simulation. So we're, in terms of, we could start looking at, you could say, so-called realities, or as dimension, or for dimensions rather, as frequencies, different vibrating frequencies. That's all they are. Basically, we are experiencing, out of the entire light energy spectrum, we are experiencing the lowest, which is like the lowest level where energy and matter is almost frozen. That's called the third dimension. So as we move up in frequency, we actually go into higher dimensions where the matter is less dense. So the more we ascend through the vibration light energy frequency spectrum, the lighter we become, because we are all fallen what we used to be called light beings. We never were this dense in the higher dimensions where we began. So through a process of involution or descent, we went from a state of eternity, because that's where we come from, which is what they call base reality, by the way. Everything else is a simulation. And then we fell into the 11th dimension, and that's when the simulation began. So the 11th dimension is not base reality, but it's still a higher level of reality than where we are currently at in the third dimension, and it's still a higher level of reality than the 5th dimension, 6, 7, 8, or 9, or 10. So every dimension becomes a little bit, you're more connected to the one unified force, to the all, which is the God force. As you go higher and higher, you're more one with that. In other words, once you reach the 12, you literally become one with the unified energy field, which is the universal life force. You become one with everything, which is awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, your book has a lot of messages of hope like that. It's really interesting. You, as I was reading it, you also, you're talking about it. It's so exciting, the times that we are in, and there's so much to know and what our future holds. But what you're talking about, you discussed briefly about the ancient libraries and that have been destroyed, that contained a lot of this information that I believe that maybe you're sharing with us, and you can clarify that. But do you think that there may still be a library or two out there still to be uncovered, like maybe the Hall of Records under the Sphinx does exist or something? And what are your thoughts about what's happening now to our artifacts?
Well, most of them have been taken by the Vatican, which is the core of the cabal. It has been for the last 1,700 years. Luckily, the Brotherhood of Light, the good forces, have safeguarded a few very important records, and they've kept it within their, subterranean vaults, whatever you want to call it. But it is believed that the halls of record underneath the Sphinx in Egypt hasn't yet been. Nobody's yet unearthed it, in other words, but it's believed that it's only accessible through the right frequency or the right energy field. So it's going to be unlocked by a certain type of frequency.
Of consciousness?
Yeah, somebody has to be in the right frequency to access those records. So those records are actually interdimensional records, because it's not just about the history of the third dimensional universe, but it goes into the history of the 15-dimensional time matrix, which I was describing, how everything is a simulation within a simulation all the way to the 12th dimension and becomes eternal reality, which is the only base reality.
Wow.
13th dimension, yeah. But it's all going to be revealed very soon. We are definitely living in unprecedented times, guys, where they call it the fullness of time, where everything that has ever been suppressed for thousands of years, the truth about our origin, the truth about our inner power, how powerful we truly are, as multidimensional beings currently experiencing, right, in the spectrum of light, the lowest frequency. But as we bounce back up, it's going to be amazing of a ride, how we're going to just be like these amazing individuals, with amazing abilities. And even AI is not going to compare to some of the divine powers that we're going to be manifesting, by the way. So you can't even compare it.
Wow. That's exciting.
Yeah. Wow. I was thinking too, you had mentioned that, you had awareness of this in your childhood, and then, you begin to research. Have you reached out to others, and are you, a part of a community and that you share information with? I mean, I know you obviously wrote wrote that wonderful book and everything. Are you a part of a community? Do you guys communicate and share ideas and I guess encourage and upbuild each other, that kind of thing?
I do actually. I have. I go live on my YouTube platform every other night. So a lot of the people that resonate with this information, what we do is we create a community of just like-minded individuals where we can pretty much speak our minds and, talk about anything we want to talk about. Exiting the matrix, see our multidimensionality, UFOs, extraterrestrials, the different types of extraterrestrials, So yeah, I do have a community like that where every other night I go live and we just it's like a round table, I answer questions. I start off with certain topics, of course, and then from there I open it up for questions and answers. So it's kind of neat because even they communicate among themselves in the chat, which is awesome. It gives them an opportunity to connect with other people worldwide that are vibrating at the same frequency of consciousness.
Wow, that's awesome. I know you have your website as well. I have a question for you. And I too, back when Lou Elizondo came out and spoke and said, we're going to have a fundamentally different conversation a year from now, my mind didn't go necessarily to UAPs and UFOs. It went to consciousness and the power that I think the true suppression, the true suppression is our own individual powers that each soul has. Yeah. And you're speaking about that very eloquently. But my question to you is, are there people out there, because the world's a mess right now, that given the powers that we ultimately can develop, everybody has to develop just like a muscle. Right. Can we trust everybody to use it in a responsible way? I mean, I worry that there's souls out there that might not be necessarily wanting to use whatever powers of the mind or manifestation in such a positive way. And that kind of makes me a little nervous. What do you think about that?
Well, there are two ways in which this phenomena is going to unfold, right? This next stage of organic human evolution without merging with technology, because that's a totally different field that you don't want to get into. But it's going to happen. I think that the first ones to activate are going to be people that are already, you could say, established within their heart. They are completely all loving, all compassionate to every living thing. They respect everyone. They practice kindness, and they are really in a state of service to others mentality. So I think those are the people that are going to obviously be very responsible enough and mature enough to be able to use these abilities for good. However, in the event that, say, some of the star seeds that are down here, because the star seeds are pretty much going to be the ones that are going to activate more so than the Earth terrans, because the star seeds have been genetically spliced with a lot of different alien genetics that makes their body, by the way. But some of the star seeds are also going to be able to be even more powerful than other star seeds, where they're going to have multiple abilities. And so, because there are going to be different grades of upgrades, we could say that the oldest of souls, the most mature, are going to have most of the powers. And so as a result of that, they're going to just make sure everyone's in check.
Okay.
Because they'll be able to stop them really quick like that if they wanted to, and everyone's going to be, all right, cool. Obviously there's going to be some kind of an order and rules and principles we all have to abide by.
Right. But I mean, that makes sense. I mean, the way our world is set up right now, it is just so not ready for the unveiling of this. I mean, it's going to be chaos for a while, I'd imagine. We only have a couple minutes left until our first break. But don't you agree with that? I mean, it'll be a huge world adjustment. And do you think this, are you looking at a 5-year timeline, 10-year, 20, I mean, in our lifetime, or what are you predicting as far as the awakening kind of, as this unfolds?
All right. Before I answer that question, the alternative to this natural organic, transformation of our species, right, into the next levels of human evolution, there's also the transhumanist path, which is the dark side's way of doing it, through the lazy way of spiritually bypassing, not doing the work, not meditating, not connecting with source, with nature on a daily basis, because that's where our powers are coming in more and more. We're building a symbiotic relationship with our environment via our own individual consciousness, as we infuse it with the consciousness of the elements, the plants, the stones, and the planet in general. Right. Whereas a certain amount of people are actually going to take the transhumanist path. And those are the people that are billionaires. Yes, so they're going to go a different route.
AI, you're talking AI.
Exactly, and that's why they're developing AI, because they know that this is coming. They know about the real prophecy, so they want to compete with us, But to answer your question was the time frame when this all this happened. Well, I would say I really feel like it's going to happen within a decade. That's all I'm going to say.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow. All right. I ask you that, and because there's kind of these whisperings going on within the community of this. I'm hearing 4 years, 4-year timeline. So I'm definitely hearing for sure within a decade that's something big. And I keep going like, what should we be prepared for? But the consensus mostly is what you just spoke about. So that's really interesting. I think before we go to break, how long my clock, talk about supernatural. My computer clock is messed up, my show clock. So I'm relying on you guys I'm going blindly here in time, but you do have a website. I think I took a screenshot of that.
I'm there.
That up real quick. Yep.
I'm getting there. Yep. Hold on. Oh, here we go. This one here.
There it is. The Cosmic Arts. Yep. That is your website. So I encourage people. And the URL for that is.
I'm looking there. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Is that our Cosmic Origin? Is that it?
That's my other website. You could put them both. One of them will just take you to like the Cosmic Arts is for my classes, and you could order the audio version of my book, my online courses, that is.
Cool.
Our Cosmic Origin, that's where you could order the latest version, which is the purple book of our Cosmic Origin, the newest edition, which has an added chapter. And then also you have access to all my social media platforms, my YouTube channel, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. Cool. All right. I think we are right up against the break. And when we come back, we're going to do my new segment, An Evening on Earth with an Extraterrestrial. So we'll see you guys in 3 minutes.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
All right, we are back. So my new segment, Evening on Earth with an Extraterrestrial. So Ismael, this is something we came up with. So I have 5 questions I'm going to ask you. The first one is, so an extraterrestrial comes down perhaps from the Pleiades. It could be any, whoever decides to come down on whatever evening. Where on Earth would you like to meet the extraterrestrial? Anywhere on the planet?
Mm-hmm. I would probably want to meet. Well, due to the fact that there's a huge government cover-up regarding their presence and the negotiations that have been going on behind the scenes, I would probably want to meet him somewhere, perhaps at the top of Mount Shasta or in Sedona, in the middle of nowhere, in order to not create some sort of alarming type of attention.
Somewhere very private. That's a good answer. Mount Shasta, boy, that is one high strangeness area. Same with, of course, Sedona.
Yeah,
of course.
That they probably just want to meet me because there's something very important they want to share with me. And of course, it's best to be in a place where you don't have government spying on you.
That's right. But being that remote, you're going to have to picnic basket the food in. So what food would you like this extraterrestrial to taste? Any dish?
Any dish?
Uh-huh.
I would have to say Indian food. Some of that
Indian food.
Curry. Yes.
So. All right, curry.
Interesting.
Food. All right, and now you're going to put on the background music, a song. What song would you play for the extraterrestrial?
I would probably play some of that fast beat trance dance music with ta 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 ta. That goes into big. It reaches a crescendo and then it goes like techno. But not. Yeah. It's not techno. It's different than techno. I'd probably play something like that for it. See what it does.
All right, you got this whole vibe going on. And now he's gonna say, "Hey, I would really like to watch a flick tonight. What movie would you recommend to our little extraterrestrial friend?"
E.T. Phone Home.
E.T. Of course, of course, that's a good one. And the final question, then the most important one, if you can ask one question, what would it be?
I would ask him, what density or dimension are you from? And then depending on what his answer is, then I'll know exactly if he's from a type 1, type 2, or type 3 galactic civilization.
Okay, that's a great lead into my next question. Can you talk to us about, type 1, type 2, and the different density dimensions?
Well, there's actually type 5 because, we are dealing with a multiple universe reality. But a type 1 to a type 3 are galactics. They only exist within the perceived area of the universe, which is really the 4%, right? When they pierce into the sky, they only see the galaxies. Everything else is dark matter. They call it dark energy. So when they pierce into the skies, they're only looking at the 4%. So within that 4%, we have type 1 and type 2 and type 3. Now, the difference is type 1 is kind of like a beginning space age civilization that has just recently discovered free energy technology, propulsion systems, anti-gravity, the controlling of magnetics, the gravitational field. They figured out how to control their own weather, which is something that they do from behind the scenes through art. And they're able, through a Dyson sphere, tap into the planetary field, which is the toroidal field of the planet, so they could harness energy beyond what they are currently using, which is plant combustion and coil. I think that's where they get their energy from. But so they would actually now be harnessing planetary power. So that's what a type 1 is. They harness planetary power. So now they're able to soar off into space to colonize the nearest solar systems, and still not fully yet mastering interdimensional physics, but on their way. But thousands of years of their, I guess, evolution. What happened?
There's a ghost in the machine. I don't know.
Maybe they don't want me to describe the difference.
I think. Okay, I don't know that.
Well, apologize. Please continue.
Yeah, that's never happened. So talk about mystical. Okay, sorry.
So a type 2 is called stellar because they are able to tap into stellar power, which is their sun. And then an intermediate or advanced form of a stellar is multiple stars. Yeah, they harness the power of many stars. Now they're able to manipulate wormholes, stargates, and zoom from one point of the galaxy to the next without traveling in space, just going from one point to the next through a stargate. So that's called a type 2, a stellar. And now they have access to like a whole galaxy. So that's where we're at as far as like our secret space programs are concerned. We're no longer type 1. Within the private sector, we've already jumped into a type 2, by the way.
Most of us don't know that, though, correct? We're kind of left in the dark.
And a type 3 is galactic. It's about 100,000 years ahead of a type 0, which is what we are still. Oh, I mean, technically, we're 0.9. We're about to transition into the space age. But it's about a few thousands and thousands ahead of a type 1, and then only a few thousand years ahead of a type 2. So a galactic is a civilization that is, you could say, is intergalactic, because now they harness the power of an entire galaxy, which is equivalent to billions of stars. So when you tap into that much energy, you could actually manipulate time and space as we know it and transfer your entire civilization to a younger universe in the event that universe grows old and decays. So that's how advanced they are. So they're considered immortal. At that point, they just continue. Wow. Yeah. And we could identify them as the big bulge at the center of all galaxies. When you guys look at galaxies, you know how they all have that big bulge of light at the center? Well, that's where all the type 3 exists, because they're all using central galactic power, the galactic core. Yeah. So they're harnessing that what seems to be like a black hole, but it's really just luminous light that is spinning the galaxy. That is, giving it is energy. It's universal life supply that in turn sustains the billions of solar systems and all the life forms in galaxies. So a type 3 is able to administrate that universal life force. They're able to control that. So in that regard, they control the entire fate of a galaxy. So luckily, the benevolent ETs that are known as the Sirians, High Council of Sirius, and of course those that come from Sagittarius and the system of the Vega system, they are there at the center harnessing the power so that they could eventually win the war against the reptilians and the dark ones, which is awesome. And then and then a type 4 is more of now that goes into what they call the so-called dark energy and dark matter, the missing universe. So that is reality that vibrates beyond the galaxies. They harness the entire power of an entire universe, which is billions of galaxies. That's called a type 4. So all they're concerned with is just the creation of universes. They don't even engage in our petty galactic wars. They just oversee things. So even the galactic wars are like a soap opera to a civilization of a type 4. They just watch. They just see how things unfold. Sometimes they do intervene, though. Like, if something goes wrong, they have to intervene in order to tweak the timeline in order to have that timeline in a positive trajectory. Then they will intervene. But other than that, like the type 4 just watches, and all they do is create universes. So civilization of that level, I mean, these guys are like gods and goddesses. And there is a type 5, which is related to the always existing realms of the mother central universe. So believe it or not, guys, there is a central universe, a motherverse in which all the universe are coming from, including. And so that's what a type 5 is they are the intelligences that inhabit the realms of the mother central spheres. And now all they do is just watch. They just watch, That's all they do.
Are they the ones that kind of then ultimately decide if we're ready to join back into our Galactic Federation family? I mean, who kind of judges that?
Is normally they don't really, how can I say, they don't really intervene. The ones that intervene are the type 4, the ones that are creating universes and system form, building systems and all that stuff. But the ones at a type 5, they're already in a state of pure eternity and bliss. Like they don't even use physical bodies. They're just pure light. intelligences. You can't even. I mean, they could manifest any form they want. They could descend into any dimension they want. But they don't really intervene with what goes on in the cosmos. Yeah, they're just kind of like silent observers. That's all.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a type 5 is considered cosmic.
I know cosmic.
Cosmic,
with the various alien species that are thought to come here, I've read as many as like 72 different ones. What do you think about that? And what I guess what I really want to know is, what do you feel UFOs are, and what is the source behind those? The ones that we typically see, photograph, video, engaging the military, or producing civilian experiences. What do you attribute that to?
It could be a multiple of different. Yeah, it could be a multiple different scenarios unfolding. We do have the technology. I would have to say over 60% of the sightings are our own, like the Tic Tacs, like the other craft that they commonly witness near military bases. Like all that stuff is because, why do you think they're always around military bases? Because they're trying out new prototypes. They're constantly advancing their prototypes. So we've had the tech since the 50s, guys. And it all started with the Nazis, of course. But so over 60% of the sightings are our own. The other 40% are really just our galactic family of light. Those are the ones that are considered positive races that exist in higher dimensions, like 5 and above. The ones that exist in dimensions 10, 11, and 12, they actually have to through the lowering of frequency, they have to materialize a physical form. Actually, even the ones in the 5th dimension sometimes do. So when we do see them, all they do is they just decelerate their vibrational frequency of their craft, and that's how we're able to see them. So they have the ability to do so.
Wow.
I'm curious.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question, Shane, because you're talking about all these things that we see, but most of the creatures we see are humanoid or human-like, and maybe you can talk about how, like you were talking, the core of all the universes, we're all kind of descendant, and so there's this human-like species throughout all of the universes or metaverses. And like Shane said, I've heard something like 70 to 80 some type of things. And kind of on a side note of that, do you think there's any living on the moon and anybody's occupying that?
Well, not the surface of the moon, but even though it is currently undergoing terraforming so that it could sustain our type of life, but in the inner Mars. I'm sorry, we're referring to the moon here, right?
The moon, but if you want to talk about Mars, that's cool too, because I know you said there was a gate there in Mars at one time, right? A Stargate.
The moon is it's not a natural planetoid. It's an artificial construct that was created by advanced races, the good guys at first, but then later it was hijacked by the dark guys in order to use it as a controlling satellite and spying satellite. So inside the moon, there has always been extraterrestrial races that have been just sitting there monitoring us from inside the moon. Yeah.
Wow. They just live there?
Say that again?
So they just live there and they get along with each other then?
Well, not necessarily, because we had two opposing groups recently. Well, how can I say it? Okay, so for the last few thousand years, the moon has used by the negative ones in order to kind of control us. Keep us in this reincarnational loop. It's something to do with the black cube and the rings of Saturn that were receiving information from Orion to keep the people of the Earth locked into this limited third dimensional vibration without it going beyond it.
Is that the soul recycler that they speak of that's on the far side of the moon, that box and these boxes that are around that recycles our souls? Exactly. I just watched something about that. Yeah, it's interesting that you would bring that up on this show. Just literally 2 days ago, I was watching that. So
that was done by the dark forces, but because in 2018, there's been a huge changeover in power in our solar system where the Galactics, in collaboration with the Earth Alliance, members of like the positive programs like Solar Warden, and Space Force, they have been actually conducting some massive interplanetary operations where they've been eliminating all the negative ETs from these bases that are around our moon, around our solar system, and then of course inside our moon. So for the last few years, all that stuff has been neutralized. So the black cube is no longer operative. In other words,
does that mean we're going to stop reincarnating back and back? And what happens since we're not going to reincarnate back here on Earth? Do we reincarnate elsewhere? What happens to our souls then?
Well, we just descend into our fifth dimensional avatar body. Okay. Yeah, so we have an avatar in every dimension, by the way, and all the way to the 12th. Beyond the 12th, it's just pure light. But at the level of 12 dimension is when we are both eternal and physical at the same time. So we have an avatar on every dimension, by the way. So all we do is just, our consciousness just recycles back to an avatar that is less dense and with more abilities. And so
that's something we all have to look forward to, because if we're less dense, we could perhaps fly and we'll be, I'm assuming, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but just more loving and caring and connected with everybody else. And maybe you can kind of speak about, Tara mentioned the different types of ET races, and we know about the common ones, the reptilians, the Dracos, the Pleiadians, the tall whites and that. And I struggle sometimes with putting them all in, boxes of good versus evil, or, can you speak about that? I mean, the evolution of this galactic war. I mean, you mentioned Lyra, and is that a place of origin? And can you walk us through that kind of briefly?
Sure. So this war between good and evil, which is involving many other dimensions, has, it's a war that started in the 11th dimension, even before it reached the galaxy. But the races that are involved they fall under two categories. The positive races are in service to others. They are part of the they're part of the mental philosophy of everything in the universe is sacred and everything's connected. Therefore, we have to live in harmony with it. So they're all about that. And then the negative ones, which is what we call the fallen ones, are the ones that are against that. Instead, they're all about service to self. They're all about manipulation. The end justifies the means type of mentality, which is draconian. So we could say that all extraterrestrials fall under those two categories. That's what infused the galactic wars, is that those that decided to abide by the principles of the law of one, consciousness, unity, consciousness, brotherhood, and sisterhood, were defending themselves in the universe from those that wanted to, push their ideology of control, power, domination, and totalitarianism, and enslavement and all that stuff. So that's what fused the galactic wars. It was really a response from the positive races against the negative races who were out to conquer the entire universe at one point, 560 million years ago, to be exact. Earth.
Why did they choose Earth to make this so tumultuous and difficult? I feel like, I'm sure a lot of us do. It's like constant struggles all the time. Mm-hmm. Why our planet?
Well, for multiple reasons. Our planet happens to be the most important planet in the entire multiverse, not just our universe. It is part of an experiment that has been conducted at the highest levels of reality by all the forces of good, being carried forward through the forces of good throughout the lower dimensions, including the third, which are the Earth allies. It's because of the fact that Earth is a living cosmic library. And that's the reason why, Earth is the final battleground, because what they're really after is the data, the genetic templates, our genetic encodings. There's certain, like a mathematical formula, our genes are encoded with certain sequences. And so they're after those, those types of codings so that they could access the realms of eternity. So it turns out that because we are a very diverse race and we carry a mixture of all the races in our multiverse in one spot, we have, as a result of that, we are also considered the most, where we carry the greatest potential, in other words. And so there's many, and that explains why we are coveted as a race, by the way, why our genetics is very valuable to every other race out there, because we are the potpourri of all the different celestial races put into one spot. And so, that's another reason why the last battle takes place here, because, what happens here is going to end the war everywhere else, in other words. So,
wow, no pressure on us, huh? But are there other physical worlds, planets in our three-dimensional universe that has, biological entities living upon them, or is this, entirely dimensional and non-physical?
well, physicality, there's different grades of matter. It exists on every dimension, all the way to the 11th and 12th. So that's why extraterrestrial civilizations are as physical as you and me, despite if they're from higher dimensions, because the difference between their type of matter and our matter is that their matter is more subtle, it's less dense than our matter, but it's still physical. If we were to raise our frequency to their particular vibration, we would cease to exist in the third dimension and reappear in that dimension. All right, so everything, it's like kind of like the wave particle double slit experiment. Everything's just really just in a state of oceanic energy form, and it's through our consciousness that we collapse things on every different level of reality. So everything is held like that. Every dimension is held as you could say, similar to the way the third dimension. It's just different type of matter. So yeah, they're all physical. All the different ETs out there are physical. The only time where they refrain from being physical is when they reach the 12th dimension, and then they evolve into non-physical, pure light body state of being.
No,
cool.
And yeah, so what do you think of the hybrid programs, the abductions that are still, from our reports in the ERT, are still being reported? Actually, it's on the rise. And so what do you think about these hybrid programs? Are they still continuing to this day? Are you getting information about that? And if so, why? What is the end game with that?
Well, because of this original program that has been going on for billions of years, which is to create a super race where they combine the best celestial genetics of different types of civilizations from across the multiverse to put into one. You could say that the negatives, or the fallen ones, are also trying to compete with the positive program. And so that's why they're kind of conducting their own programs, but that are not in alignment with the divine program. And what I mean by that is that they're inserting genetics from insectoids, cybernetic, artificial intelligence types of creating, half humans or half organics, half inorganics. And so that's where their program goes wrong, is that they're incorporating reptilian genetics, insectilian genetics, things that are not part of the original angelic blueprint, in other words.
Wow.
I'm wondering, Ismael, you talk in your book about the millions and millions of possible, planets or universes. Just there's so many galaxies and so many planets. There's just the amount of possible life out there is just unbelievable. And so I guess my question with all of that, and you're talking about how we have these governing this federation that kind of watches over us, and there's some kind of order to that. Mm-hmm. How is it we as individuals, some of us pray, or some of us just think to our, whatever our higher self is, and you call it something different, but there's the implication that there's souls or these vibrational entities, these beings out there that help us individually. And it's hard to understand, how can something out there, these billions of things, really be there to help me individually? And how can I connect with something like that?
Well, right now, there is a huge effort by our galactic family to connect with, their offspring, which is us, the starseeds. So I would say that the best way to do it, if you want to establish communication with your star family, is through meditation. And then you have to pop the question. You have to ask the question. You have to voice it and say, I want to make contact with you. And you have to, and they will hear you telepathically.
Cool.
But yeah, so there is a way to communicate with them, but you have to be serious about it. And you have to be dedicated, establishing 30 to 40 minutes a day, perhaps even an hour, to try to quiet your mind so that you could go into some sort of state of mind where you could actually begin to telepathically connect with your star family. Because all they're doing is just waiting for us to communicate with them. Because that's how first contact is going to establish. It's never going to come from the government, guys. The government they have their own agenda, and it's sad. The real contact that's going to happen through the star seeds, through the aliens that are here in human form. I'm sorry to say that. The celestial. That's what we, in a sense.
So those aliens that are here in human form, can we recognize them?
Yeah, they vibrate with a particular frequency. So it's all in their energy field. They normally exert or exude a type of indigo or violet or blue. Blue, purple, and indigo, that's the vibration that the star seeds have. They exude it. So when you are in contact with one of them, and if you have the clairvoyant gifts, you could actually see their aura, or you could be clairsentient and you could feel, their energy field, which is different than the average person. Because most humans only vibrate at anywhere from 60 hertz or millivolts to about 120, 150. Yeah. Whereas the star people that are down here in human form, and a lot of them are in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They came in the 50s, by the way, or 80s. Wow. They came in the late 40s. That's when the first wave came in. Of course, a huge chunk of them are in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and late 30s. That could explain a few of you guys. You guys are probably and you don't even know it. Yeah. That's why.
We know it. No,
we just don't show it.
We know it. We just don't want it. Anyway, no, just kidding.
Yeah, it's kind of acclimating to the third dimensional human, world. But the whole point is they have a certain type of frequency. They see things differently. They're nonconformists from day one. They don't just take face value what they learn in the educational system. They question everything, and they're really drawn to the stars, the supernatural, mysticism, and of course, aliens and UFOs. So that's when you know you're stars. Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Because what happens, and you mentioned it at the top of the show, what happens when you're like that and you go against the tide, you are more intuitive, you're more, Tara's like this too, with the animals and nature and the trees. And my youngest son, he was picked on in elementary school because he saw kids like pulling things off trees, and he was like trying to protect the trees. So I totally resonate with that story. And he could call, he didn't talk for 3 years. We were signing with him. He just clicked. He spoke in a click, and he finally talked, but when he started talking, would call people by color. So he would see people's auras. He just turned 21, so he's not my baby anymore. But
yes, he is.
Let's talk about that, because when you are dealing with that, when you are taught to shut down and you're different from everybody else, you can go through PTSD and you can become very quiet and reserved. And can you share with us maybe some ways to help, our listeners out there or any viewers that either are going through that themselves or have children that perhaps are a little bit different? All the children now coming in with autism. Do you think this is a part of the galactic plan? Kids that are much more sensitive now. You hear about rainbow kids or crystal kids or these things. Can you speak about that? And what are some tips for parents or for the individuals to kind of help bring them out of that and feel like they're okay and they're safe?
Well, it's definitely, you could definitely develop some sort of a state of depression. You could definitely do that because you're being told to not be yourself, first of all.
Right.
It's depressing. It's natural to you. So based on my own experience, it was very challenging. There was many of times where I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted to beam me up, Scotty, take me back.
Yeah.
Where's my ship? But, it's the best thing to do, especially if you have kids that are autistic, because so kids that are autistic are really advanced. And that's why they label them, because they don't need words like we do. They're completely mental. Everything they do is mental. They communicate, they see things mentally, and they're telepathic, and they operate on higher dimension. Their consciousness, rather, is already operating in higher dimensions. So it's very hard for them to interact in a third dimensional society, and that's where they get labeled. So the best thing to do is to nurture them, to try to engage their right brain, by visuals. They're more visual than they are, left brain oriented. Teach them how to master their breathing. Teach them about yoga. Teach them how to meditate. Teach them the arts, spiritual arts, and that's one way in which these kids can learn to harness their power. Because all it is just scattered focus. All you have to do is learn how to beam that focus. Once they learn how to control their mind, their scattered focus just they're able to narrow it into anything they want, and boom, they achieve it. They manifest.
And align their chakras, right? Mm-hmm.
So, it is tough. It is tough. It's not easy.
Go ahead, Tara.
Well, I have a question for you. So you talk about how there's really no such thing as death, but it's really a transformation into another dimension. So isn't it all about light? And that's the exciting thing, is that everything is just a different form of light, all energy and us. And maybe you could talk about that. It's just kind of cool.
Well, we are light.
Yes.
Yes, we're not.
I hear the angels.
We originated in light. We're beings of light. Our original avatar was not flesh and bones. It was a light body. It was a Merkaba. It was a toroidal field, and that allowed us to transverse, or at least travel the different planes of reality, the different dimensions at one point. So, as light beings, you could say that our consciousness is part of that field. That's why even when you think of how the forces of nature, magnetism, the gravitational field, it's all living consciousness. You could actually communicate with the electromagnetic field. You can communicate, yes, with the weak force and the positive force and the strong force and all the other forces, because it's who we are. As energy beings, we can connect with every level of intelligence at will if we wanted to. So.
Well, you discuss in your book also like the future and changing into this more positive vibration of love and compassion, and I thought it was interesting about the future how you talked about maybe the new motto is it's the greatest benefit for everyone and everything, if I'm getting that right, and that the future philosophy is that we are all one, where right now we feel so separated and there's such, forced, fighting against each other. So the future, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's being led by the star people, all of you guys out there. Even the fact that you guys have this platform that reveals what's happening, with UFOs and capturing footage and talking about it, discussing it. I mean, this is a big part of a Starseed mission. What you guys do is definitely indicating that you guys are all starseeds, by the way. So,
even you, Shane.
No, I'll tell you, I'm a very frustrated person because it's so interesting. Not to make this about me, but I was drawn to UFOs in a very nuts and bolts kind of way, and then as I began to experience it and get more deeply into the community and doing the research, I began to appreciate the whole consciousness side of it on a whole nother level, which is awesome. But I've been a spiritual person my whole life, but I feel like I'm as dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to trying to connect. I mean, I've tried to meditate and I go look at the stars every night before I go to bed, and I try to contact and I feel like I am deaf, dumb, and blind, and it frustrates me because I have such an interest, but it just, I have a few synchronicities here and there, and had a little paranormal experience when I was a kid, and things like that. But I can't really say I've had an absolute, undeniable sighting. I haven't had any experiences. I mean, it really frustrates me because it feels like, I have the interest, but it's like I'm not, I don't have any connection besides the meditation. And, I'm positive about the whole thing. Any recommendations what I can do to maybe, tweak this a little and make some progress that way?
Well, what about spending time with nature? How often do you do that, my friend?
A lot, daily. I have a horse ranch and I take care of, an acreage, and I'm outside, and I make sure to ground barefoot on the earth, and really commune with the animals. And my whole family, we have a love for animals and take care of many animals, and those sorts of things. So I mean, there's that too. I'm like, why am I so dumb?
You're not.
You're not.
You're not dumb,
It feels it though. I feel similar things, Shane.
You seem to be more intelligent than the average person. I mean, the average person is still pondering if whether we're alone in the universe or not. Trust me, or not. You're very intelligent. I mean, there's still people out there, unfortunately, that still think that they never even think if there is other life forms out there other than ourselves.
Or the earth is flat.
I think, Shane, that you have to trust the divine path or guidance. And I feel like, and I hear this from other contactees as well, that you are on this path and you're listening and you're paying attention. Otherwise you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. And your role that you're playing right now, the nuts and bolts guy, that's important too, because you're bringing along those folks and you're slowly all going to wake up together. So you have an important role. Just know that you do, and don't dumb yourself down like that, because you're very intelligent and you play an important role. I started in this, even though I was an extreme experiencer from my Skinwalker Colorado Ranch experiences.
Yeah.
And it was frightening. And this is something I wanted to ask Ismael right now. Things that are unknown to us can be seen as frightening. But for me and so many others out there, those frightening events turn into a very spiritual path and turn into something much more powerful. And no matter how some of, you say starseeds, you want to try and unplug or get off of it, it almost like pushes you back, like, you're going to go here and do this. And I think if you're awake to it and you're listening and paying attention, it turns into a very powerful spiritual. And I can tell you, I don't want to drop names, but Barry Roth, there's some others in the field that are very nuts and bolts driven that have been awakened to the more conscious spiritual side. Jacques Vallée, he led the pack in really opening up this consciousness. What do you think about that, Ismael, about the fear turning into a spiritual path for people when it comes to UFOs and ETs?
Well, I think it all relates. I think you can't be into the supernatural and not be into spirituality. You can't be into extraterrestrials because it involves another dimension, beings from other planets, and not have any understanding of spirituality. I think it's all interrelated. I think that even though there are different levels of awakening, some people are still in at the level of conspiracy theory, right? Well, we know that the government is hiding alien craft. We know that they're working with aliens, the reptilians, the Greys, whatever. And then there is another level where they're a little bit more conscious, because now they're integrating spirituality with conspiracy theory. They are doing the inner work. They are doing the spiritual cleaning or the spiritual exercises. And then now they're starting to understand that, even though that there are negative ETs working with our government, there has to be also positive ETs that are counteracting that, and obviously working in the benefit for humanity. And so now they begin to align more with that. And then, of course, there are those that are just extremely advanced, where they're like literally masters of the matrix, constantly manipulating time, matter, people around them, and they're living like they're extraterrestrials while being human at the same time, of course, having these amazing abilities. So there are different levels of awakening, I would say, on the planet right now. And all of those levels are still within less than 10%, unfortunately, because I believe that once we hit 10%, that's when we hit critical mass and the collective consciousness of humanity begins to understand these higher concepts.
Awesome. Tara, did you have a question next? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I guess I do. Your book mentions that, we may have lost a lot of the records of our past on this planet, but other planets have records of the galactic wars and things like that. Do they have records of us as well? Could our libraries, once we communicate, could our libraries be opened again, or how should I say it, replenished with the records they have?
Absolutely. Well, we talked about the halls of records being underneath the Sphinx, right?
Right.
That is an example of records that have never been corrupted or contaminated, and they're still there fully intact. But yes, the different systems out there, or the different civilizations that are more geared towards service to others, that are in our favor, definitely have a copy of all of our records as well. Because a lot of these civilizations, all they do is they just take records of what happens in these lower worlds that are being monitored by, say, a Type 2 civilization. Because even primitive worlds, believe it or not, are also being watched by these Type 2 civilizations, and they wait for them to reach a certain level of consciousness, first of all, a certain level of spiritual maturity, cultural and technological progress, before they begin to slowly but surely, you could say, begin the process of first contact. So this is happening, on many planets, not just on the Earth. It's just that the Earth happens to be one of the most important planets in the whole cosmos for many reasons.
Interesting. Let's talk about free will for a minute, and humans, if we have free will or not. So let's say we are incarnated with the DNA of a Draco or a reptilian or something like that, and we're kind of their minion, a certain individual. Does that individual then have the free will to conquer that and choose a lighter side and say, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I choose love and oneness and light, and not be doomed to their fate? I mean, how do you go about that? First, can they? And then how do you do that? I guess through meditation and that, but can they even begin to do that? Or are you just sort of, sorry?
Do they know who they are?
Well, first and foremost is, are they aware that they're being used? And then once they become aware of that, then it's their choice to override the programming through willpower, of course, because unless they're fully AI or cybernetic, they still have, you could say, connection to source, connection to God. Even if they change it. And they could change it. And to give you an example, not all the reptilians are evil. About, I'd say 12% of the reptilian population in Orion, 12%, which is less than 15%, defected. They didn't want to live according to the service to self philosophy and for the expansion of the empire. They decided to defect and kind of live their own lives without, falling into the mindset of the typical Draco. And they became spiritual. They decided to live in harmony with other beings. So just to give you an example, anybody could defect from the dark side. Anybody could override the negative programming if they wanted to, as long as they're not fully AI. Because once you're cybernetic, like in terms of like the Greys are definitely not organic anymore. They are definitely cybernetic, inorganic. As a dying race, just to give you an example, why do you think the Greys have been extracting eggs from women on the Earth? Because they want to save their dying race, because they lost their connection to God.
Yeah.
So they want to create a certain hybrid that will allow their whatever is left of their consciousness to incarnate in a body that has a connection to God.
Wow. Well, that's a hopeful message, actually. And I kind of want to talk to you too a little bit. You mentioned, spending time in nature and meditating, and even, as long as you can throughout the day to really connect. But can you talk about, you mentioned telekinesis and certain powers, and you mentioned that you have kind of worked with these different abilities, the Monroe Institute, bending spoons, and are those abilities we can all kind of work to develop? And what have you done in that realm?
Well, I'm still trying to remember and trying to, you could say, switch on some of these abilities. But I do know that by being part of these off-world programs, that I do have altars, and it's when I switch into these altars that I'm able to connect with my, say, telekinesis and telepathy and all that stuff. But we all have it in us, and I think through disciplinary meditation, we could all begin to unlock our abilities by willpower and choice. because this is just the beginning of what we are capable of doing. This is just us using perhaps even just a tiny more percentage of our entire genetic material. Once we reach 20%, we're going to be like X-Men. 25%, 30, and we become like the gods. And then, of course, if we ever reach 100%, God, we're going to be able to pretty much create anything we want at will, our own universe, if we want to.
Wow.
And that's what these beings in the 12th dimension that are part of a category 4 civilization, that's all they engage in. They just create universes.
Wow.
Because they don't have time to. It's considered immature for them to engage in galactic wars at that level.
Can you talk about time and space, and does time exist in all dimensions?
No, it only exists up to the fourth. I think that once we get to the fourth dimension, time becomes kind of like plastic. You could just tweak it and play with it. And that's how they're able to time travel, is because they're going into higher dimensions where everything's happening at the same time. Because once you get to the fifth dimension, there is no time. And so at that point, if there is no time, then you have access to all of time on every timeline, and every trajectory. As far as we see it from, sequentially in the third dimension, from a higher dimension, it's all happening at once. So that's how they're able to time travel.
Wow. So it's like the block universe type of thing. Kind of similar.
Similar, you could say, something like that. You're on the right track.
It's hard to comprehend sometimes. So.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is. That's why time is irrelevant in fifth dimensional Earth and above. It's only existing here.
Do you think in some of our military black access projects, because we've all heard anywhere from we're more advanced, maybe 40, 50 years more advanced than what the average person knows. Do you think that somehow they meaning military or black access projects, were able to manipulate and learn how to manipulate time and jump time, like Project Looking Glass and that? And how did that affect what's happening now?
Well, there's this thing called the Mandela effect, where we're constantly alternating from one alternate Earth to the other, where in a state of superposition, you have infinite numbers of probability Earths taking place. So the Mandela effect is pretty much the result of the time wars that are taking place, the timeline wars. And it's taking place by everyone, both the light and the dark. Everyone's time traveling. We have people time traveling from the first creation all the way from the beginning of the 15 dimensional time matrix.
Wow.
We have traveling into the future, and then we have people from the future traveling into the past to try to alter the future. So it's a war that has already been won by the light, in a sense where they were able to pin down the dark side on every probability and every. So
that's why our future is so hopeful.
Exactly. That's why we are going to be witnessing the rise of the golden age. It's been prophesied about, the age of Aquarius.
Sorry, I was on mute there. So you had already talked about, our DNA being a focus and, the reasons for that. But, I've had a couple cattle mutilation cases in my career as an investigator. And it seems like that continues to this day. I mean, it started documented back in the 40s and so forth. Is it related to any of this, or is this something that's standalone different, or what are your thoughts on that? Because again, if it's a DNA thing, it's been 70 years they've been doing it. What more can you learn type of thing? But any thoughts on that at all?
Well, they're still conducting these horrible interbreeding programs where they're crossbreeding species, humans with animals. Unfortunately, that's something that existed during the times of Atlantis, and it was one of the reasons why Atlantis fell. But it's been happening, and it's still happening again. So that was something that was established in the 1954 through Project I believe it was called the Greada Treaty, Greata, I believe, Greada Treaty, that allowed the Greys to not only abduct females, to extract their eggs, of course, harvest genetics, but also they were mutilating, like say cows and stuff and different types of animals. But I think that they were also taking genetics from animals as well.
Wow.
It's interesting. Go ahead. Go ahead, Shane.
No, okay, go ahead. That was interesting. Thank you.
Oh, I wanted you to finish your point. I was just saying that it's interesting you brought that up. That's what I did over Labor Day weekend. I'm going to share some photos next week on the show. But Snippy the horse, which, was that famous horse mutilation in 1967, the family invited me out there over the weekend. We had a sky watch and all that stuff at the UFO Watchtower. But, so that was a heavy topic. And they're hopeful to maybe plan a yearly event up there. But what was interesting about it is the mutilation phenomenon has been seen as such a kind of a dark, heavy topic. And they're all about consciousness and enlightenment and ascending and making this positive. So that's a conversation the family was having. And it was interesting how you turn something like that into something that can be positive. And so kind of what Ismael was speaking about, ultimately, at the end of the day, we can take something like that and turn it into something positive. So thank you for bringing that up, Shane. And it is very much still going on to this day, which brings me to my next question. You mentioned that, and I know you can't predict the future. And you're saying possibly under a decade, that this is sort of all coming, this battle that's been going on for millennia is coming to a head. What do you view, or what do you see, or what have you downloaded or heard that this is going to actually look like? I mean, are we going to see big tidal waves and flooding? Should we have some sort of preparation planned? What are you seeing and hearing?
Well, it depends on which version of the Earth you're vibrating with, because right now we are existing there's multiple scenarios unfolding in the spectrum of negative and positive and everything in between, we could say. Let's just start by saying in the negative Earth spectrum, what we call the negative timeline, yes, there's going to be tsunamis, earthquakes, perhaps even a pole shift, right? Massive cataclysms. But there's, in a positive reality timeline, there's going to be miracles taking place worldwide. All of a sudden, people are going to be having these abilities. All of the wicked and negative entities are going to be dispersed from that reality, from that Earth. And all of a sudden, everything's going to go back to being how it was before the falling consciousness, going back to Atlantean times. So depending on where you're vibrating, there's going to be some sort of bifurcation of Earths. Yeah, where the fifth dimensional Earth begins to split from the third dimensional Earth. And those that are on the spiritual path, through their hearts, through their own integrity, are going to be able to go into the positive Earth.
Right. Interesting. So basically, in a nutshell, the reality that your experience is going to depend on where you are spiritually
Yes.
and how you vibrate. Okay. So you hear that, everybody, all our listeners, everybody, let's get to work on it. Yeah. Stay positive. And no, that is a challenge. It's a daily challenge, especially the world we're in right now. And I think one of the keys is, and maybe Ismael has a tip, but we only have 4 minutes left of the show. The time flew by. But as you work and you do the spiritual work, and you have to ascend, and you may have friends and families that don't. And how do you deal with that? How do you keep following that spiritual path while trying to maintain all that other negative energy that goes on around you? Do you have any advice for people?
Well, the best thing to do is set some boundaries. If you guys feel like there's people that are no longer supporting you or no longer aligned with your purpose, they could be hindering you. At which point you have to set boundaries, because in the end of the day, you are your own savior. Nothing externally is going to save you but yourself. So I would say, just in order to keep that high vibration, high frequency, you have to set boundaries with those that are trying to pull you down, that are trying to suck your life out of you.
Right.
Excellent. That's an excellent way to end on a more positive note. I didn't want to end with that the end of the world kind of thing. So yeah, set boundaries, keep doing the good work, keep serving others and not serving self. So I appreciate it. I want to mention again your book. I hope Our Cosmic Origin. I hope everybody picks up a copy. Again, your website. Check out his website. And also, you'll be speaking at an event, I believe, in November. Is that right? Let's see. The Stairway to the Stars. I believe that's in Las Vegas. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's being promoted by Gaia TV and I believe Fade to Black. So it's going to be a huge event. I'm going to be there with a lot of great speakers that are in the field. And it's going to be interesting because this is going to be my first time where actually I get to speak at an event where you're going to have people from Ancient Aliens. You're going to have people from all these different part of the industry. Yeah, like veterans that are in the industry. So it's going to be exciting. I'm going to be breaking down the entire cosmic and galactic history, the different dimensions, all the way from the top down. So hopefully, people, for those that show up, it's going to be mind blowing. But I'm also going to be speaking in an event on the 14th of this month to the 17th, which is next weekend, at the Luxor Resort and Casino, and that's
nice.
That's called the Alien Event. The Alien Event.
The Alien Event.
I'll be there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hope our listeners can get out there and see you. We certainly appreciate you being our guest tonight on the show. Yeah. Sorry about our little crazy cosmic disturbances. Thank you to Tara. Thank you to Shane. Tara, thank you for running the back end. And thank you to Bill Skywatcher and KGRA. And I hope everybody out there has a fantastic rest of your week and a fantastic weekend. And we will see you back here next Tuesday night. So take care of everybody and have a great one. Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you all.
Thanks, Ismael. Great meeting you.
Yeah, thank you.